So with that, one of the platforms that HITLAB has identified over the last year it was actually generated and really built up pre-pandemic, but during the pandemic, there was no more important time to have a platform like this. Came from a group in Northwestern University, and we have Rana Saber here to talk a little bit about her platform and what she's done. She's done several studies, and again, HITLAB is the world's leading evidence-based digital health lab out there. And so with over 700 projects and studies completed over the last 24 years now, this is the kind of evidence generation that we look for on a regular basis. And again, really glad to have Rana here and as a part of this 2022 Digital Health Summit. And Rana, thanks for joining us today, and really appreciate your taking time out to present all the good work that you're doing and really talk about your platform. So if you can, I'll hand the virtual podium over to you, and you can tell our audience about what you're doing and how it's going.
Well, thank you so much for having me. If you give me 1 second, I'm going to share my screen.
There you go. Yep, screen's looking good. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much for inviting me. As Stan mentioned, my name is Rana Saber. I'm from the Institute for Sexual and Gender Minority Health and Wellbeing at Northwestern University in its Feinberg School of Medicine. Today, I'll be discussing 2 technologies that address the sexual health and HIV prevention needs of adolescent and young sexual minority men, which are 2 groups who are disproportionately impacted by the HIV epidemic. So why did we develop an intervention that focuses on adolescent and young sexual minority men? Well, they account for 84% of new HIV diagnoses and are 44 times more likely to contract HIV than other men. The CDC estimates that the direct cost of lifetime treatment to be over $500,000, with an estimated total direct cost burden of approximately $25 billion. And despite this reality, there's a lack of evidence-based HIV prevention interventions that are specifically designed for these populations. And even though HIV, STI knowledge, condom use, HIV testing, and PrEP uptake are all very low with adolescent and young sexual minority men, and for those programs that do exist, there is a limitation in delivering these programs through traditional face-to-face delivery channels because of key barriers like privacy concerns and access. E-health interventions can potentially overcome these key barriers, since a large majority of our teens and young adults have access to smartphones. So this brings us to Keep It Up, which is the first online best evidence risk reduction program as designated by the CDC, which is specifically designed for diverse young sexual minority men between the ages of 18 to 29, and the first e-health HIV prevention program to show significant effects on biomedical outcomes, such as reduced rates in STI infections and HIV risk behaviors when compared to an e-health control condition. So Keep It Up is an online, interactive, desktop, tablet, and mobile-friendly app that's delivered in 5 doses and uses a variety of content types, such as soap operas and testimonials from their peers, games and simulators for real-world situations that they might encounter in their daily lives and how to handle them, testing center locators and PrEP locators so they can find HIV and STI testing and PrEP near them, and how to be able to get that access. Risk calculators where they can better understand their HIV risk based on various factors, and goal-setting tools that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And these goals are set by the users, and we help them think through various facilitators and barriers that could either help or deter them from achieving their goals. And the overarching goal of Keep It Up is to increase HIV knowledge, motivate, and teach safer behaviors, and instill self-efficacy for HIV prevention strategies, which, after years of iteratively designing and updating the Keep It Up content and platforms with tens of millions of dollars from government grants and dozens of articles in peer-reviewed journals, we know that Keep It Up fulfills these goals pretty well, in large part due to extensive input and collaboration with young sexual minority men, our users, youth advisory councils, and extensive partnerships with community-based organizations who help us ensure that content is relevant, relatable, and impactful. And in the realm of addressing the HIV continuum of care, there has been a huge investment in e-health interventions by the NIH over the past 2 decades. But despite this continued investment in the development and testing of new e-health programs, few interventions with demonstrated evidence of effectiveness have achieved widespread use. So now we're trying to understand, how do we best implement these scientifically proven technologies? And so we're in the middle of wrapping up another government-funded type 3 effectiveness implementation hybrid trial that should provide some insight on how to scale up e-health programs and maximize return on investment for programs like Keep It Up. And it's doing so by comparing 2 different implementation approaches, either direct-to-consumer, which we've been able to use a strategy effectively to recruit participants in previous trials of Keep It Up, and we're able to recruit nearly 1,500 participants nationwide for this trial, or facilitated through a community-based organizations nationwide. In this trial, we were able to successfully recruit 22 CBOs across the country who have integrated our intervention into their suite of services. And now we're in the process of analyzing data to help us determine the best delivery method. Is it direct-to-consumer or CBO facilitated, or a combination of both? And what CBOs need from an online program so they can optimally and effectively integrate these online interventions into their suite of services. And because of all the success we experienced with Keep It Up, we were awarded another government grant to develop an online sexual health and HIV prevention program for adolescents. This program is called SMART. So we developmentally adapted 3 evidence-based HIV prevention e-health interventions that were originally designed for young MSM and into a step care program of increasing intensity for teens between the ages of 13 and 18. This program was also culturally and linguistically adapted for Spanish speakers, and SMART was used by over 1,200 adolescent MSM in 49 out of the 50 states plus Puerto Rico. And what we found was that 3 months after the first step of SMART, called Smart Sex Ed, we saw a significant improvement in 80% of the sexual health outcomes that we measured when we compared it to what would be expected under standard care, such as HIV and STI testing, confidence in getting tested, and PrEP uptake. So in summary, evidence-based, scientifically proven online HIV programs exist that effectively reduce HIV risk behaviors and actual STIs, that make HIV prevention scalable, more efficient, and comprehensive, and engages one of the most critical populations and allows CBOs to integrate these interventions into their suite of services, and has the potential to make a profound impact on those who are most impacted by the HIV epidemic and those who serve them. So thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to the discussions about how we can move our technologies forward, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Rana, thanks so much for your presentation there. I'm not sure what happened to Stan. I think he's having some technical issues with his microphone. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on and presenting to everybody. And really, really wonderful to see you yesterday as well, of course, in person at the summit in New York too. Yeah, I mean, look, really great to have you on. I don't have any questions myself. Let me see if there's anything in the Q&A or in the chat. If anybody has any questions for Rana, please do put them either in the chat or put them either in the Q&A box here. I think. Let me just check here, see if there's any questions over here in the chat. There's nothing here. But yeah, I mean, one of the prevalent questions that's kind of been coming into most presenters that have been talking about, various different topics and subjects and even health solutions and stuff that are coming through the ecosystem is. Where is this? Where do you see the solution or the technology around this, within the next 3 to 5 years or so, Rana?
So, I mean, the technology itself will, of course, need to be updated just so we can meet the expectations of the population that we're working with. So of course, that's going to need to continue. Content's, of course, going to need to change over the next few years as well. And that happens iteratively and needs to continue happening as long as we're providing these services. I think the next steps really is to try to figure out like, how are we integrating this with, community-based organizations like we're doing right now, so that way they can start delivering these in a more effective way, and finding a way that we can actually reach people who really need this and can really use it. And we're really good at recruiting participants for research studies. I mean, we've done that. We've recruited tens of thousands of participants within our cohort, which is pretty impressive, considering how small the cohort actually is, but it's something we can do really well. But there's always limitations when you're trying to do something outside of a research setting. And I think it actually brings us to another question by Rich about talking about the process of working in grant-funded environments. So it's an interesting question, because for us, it's a different experience. We've had a lot of success with grant writing. We've had a lot of success in acquiring large amounts of grant money. So we're talking about 60 million plus for projects like these. So we haven't really struggled in getting grant money. Now the question becomes, what's going to fund this moving forward? And that's where I think grant funding might be a little bit challenging. Like, can we really expect the government for the life of this project to fund it completely until something else is developed that would then take its place? And that's where I'm not sure if that's going to be a feasible model for us. Rich, did that help answer your question? I know you asked for tips. If you want tips, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to provide any insight. But really, you should partner with people who know grant writing, because those that know it really well, and it's not a challenge for them. Thank you, Rich.
Yeah, really great question, Rich, and tremendous presentation. And again, I think part of what the community is seeing here is there's an enormous value in your platform, and so there's a lot of excitement out there. And so Rana's entered in her email address, so please reach out to her as well, and let her know again what you think of a platform, different ways to collaborate. And that would be helpful.
We'd love advice ourselves, since again, we know the research world outside of the research world is something that's still a little bit unknown for us. So we're really happy to be able to partner with groups like HITLAB and everyone else that it brings. So thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And let's say we have another question in the chat as well, around the sustainability. So what are you seeing as, this is coming from LinkedIn, what are you seeing as a sustainability model for this?
And that's a question for me?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we're trying to work out. So if you have ideas, please talk to us. But basically we have, I think our next steps is probably to apply for some foundation to then move this. We'll probably start a 501c3 and apply for an STTR to see if that would be feasible at all for us to move things forward outside of a research setting. So those are our preliminary next steps.
Okay, great. And in terms of the actual the value proposition, have you ever had any of your patients talk about, or your clients talking about potentially paying this for, by themselves, for the service as a kind of subscription model?
For prevention services, I don't really see that happening. I don't see, young and adolescent MSM paying for this. So it would have to come from a different entity. Again, that's where it takes us back to government generally funds things like this.
Right.
The government, is it insurance? Is it payers? Like, who would be best to do this? And these are the conversations that we're currently having.
That's right. Oh, that's great. Well, good. And so again, everyone, you have Rana's email address, and let's give her a loud round of applause, virtual applause, for presenting such and really building out such an amazing platform over the last several years, and doing everything that she needed to do to deliver the evidence on that platform working. Very, very hardcore studies, FDA studies, et cetera, showing the efficacy of the platform. And that's something we just don't see very often, especially for a platform like this. So really well done, Rana. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you all very much. Bye.
So, I think we're seeing during this reset, again, another very innovative platform that's developing and really delivering a lot of value in the ecosystem. And now in this situation, we're seeing one that is looking like it has a tremendous amount of opportunity for health agencies in preventative care. And that is something we want to touch upon further. We will have Rana back here later, sometime in January, February, to give us an update and keep you all informed as to how that is going.